Hello folks, I'm L.A. Little and this is your daily TA wrap, where we take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective each time, asking ourselves what happened today and what does it tell us about the coming days. I do this show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, here from the base of what is a very cold Rocky Mountains. They're talking about snow tonight, folks. Can you believe that? End of April, snow in the mountains. So here we go again. Markets, what are the markets doing? Let's take a look at the ending numbers here. The Dow was up 86. Tax on about 0.5%, 16,535. S&P is almost 0.5% as well, 1878, 9 points higher. Composite 29, 3/4% higher, 4103. NDX a little over 3/4, 357.34. That was 29 points. And the Russell still can't get it going, down 2. Negative on the day, 1120.83. We had gold up slightly today. Really nothing happening here. And actually, that gold number looks wrong. I think gold was flat today. Dollar was pretty flat. Really not much going on anywhere else. Grains were up today was about it. So another day, another start to the week, another press higher. We've seen this over and over again. The last I don't know how long it's been, but it's been quite a few months now, where start of the week you get strength, end of the week you typically get some selling. So let's try to make sense of where we're at here, because we're going into all the big numbers. And what I mean by that is you got GDP tomorrow, you got the Federal Reserve tomorrow, you got flash PMIs that are coming out on the first of the month, first and second. You got the unemployment number out. You got a Federal Reserve meeting that's going to take place, that was taking place today. The announcement's going to be tomorrow. And you still have a range trade in the S&P, right? And what's it doing is hovering here at the top and looking for the reason, I guess, to try to break this thing out again. Now, we've had 2 attempts to break out, one up, one down. Both got reeled back into the sideways trend here. Today we go up, we stay over yesterday's high. We actually have less volume, but we're over the high. We're up here. This is kind of a anything can happen kind of an index reading tonight. There's really nothing here that says, oh, we're going to go down, or oh, we're going to go up. Neither one. It's just kind of a, so what. If we look at the Dow Jones is pretty much in the same boat, although a little bit stronger. It's actually been the strongest. It's up here pressing those highs again. 18,565. It got to 18,559. Looks to me like it's going to at least try to test that number, 848, 712, trying to go into 1.1. If it gets up to the top, you're going to have to see some escalation in volume, because right now it's just not showing it. But at the same time, doesn't want to back off. This one actually looks like it's going to try to test again. Then we go to the weak guys, and I'll start with the least weak, which is actually the Nasdaq. Actually, the least weak one is probably the NDX. But here's the Nasdaq Composite. So yesterday's high, and remember that was like another one of those hammer reversals that we got back here. Yesterday's high is 41.1159. Today we get to 41.1145. So just underneath it. So an inside bar, less volume. Again, doesn't really tell me anything different than what I already knew. If I look at the NDX, now the NDX is actually pretty much the same thing, except for it got over the bar, has less volume, back into resistance. This one is trying to crawl higher. Slight bias to the upside, but still nothing major. And then we come to the weakest of the weak, the guy that has no weighting, or pretty much no weighting, therefore is a true reflection of most stocks, at least on the small cap side. This one can't get out of this bar. Top of this bar, April 15th, that's really the measurement bar right now. Top of that bar, 1123.77. Yesterday or Friday, it comes into it, stays into it, right? Monday, tries to get over it. Then we get that big reversal, right? And then it comes all the way back, but still fails and stays within it. Today, gets over it again, can't stay over it, back underneath it. That's 3 bars in a row. Folks, when you get 3 in a row, that's a pretty good indication that this thing is going to try to dig deeper again and come back down into here. So the Russell keeps saying, we want to go lower. We want to go test these lows. We want to try to break them out. The listed issues, even though they're not showing any kind of strong upward movement, they definitely aren't showing the weakness. And so it still is a test of wills, if you will, between the small caps, the technology stocks that primarily make up the Nasdaq on one side of the battle, the listed issues, which is the Dow and the S&P 500 on the other side. So I would call it a draw at this point as we go into the numbers. But we can always go look elsewhere to try to get some other indication of what's going on, and usually that's the overseas markets and the sectors. So let's pop into the sectors and look at these guys again. So yesterday it looked as if the sectors wanted to try to bounce, and today they did. The IYT gets a bounce, it's inside bar, no volume. Again, doesn't really tell me anything. It's just the fact that there's absolutely no volume as it's trying to go back up. The semiconductors, inside bar, no volume as they try to go back up. Whether you look at the SMH or if you look at the SOX, same story. Materials sector, they actually got over, back under, less volume, right? So they tested back in. For whatever reason, they had a big volume bar yesterday on the way down. They get just slightly over it, close back within it. This says this thing wants to try to work lower again. XLE. Now the XLE has been the strongest, and today it was up big again. This is you know, I think of like 40-50% of the index. I'd have to go look it up because, you know, they change slightly all the time. But the top 3 integrated oils make up the majority of that sector, the vast majority. Those guys are going to report Thursday and Friday, CVX on Friday, Exxon on Thursday. And that is probably going to be where this thing probably turns. Today it goes over that high, back underneath it, a little less volume, kind of an ugly reversal today. This did come back in yesterday, came back into this bar, it looked like it wanted to bounce as a result, did but couldn't hold it. That tells me this is about done. And it suggests to me that when we see those earnings coming out of ExxonMobil and Chevron, they also are not going to be any kind of storm higher scenario. Here's the ExxonMobil. You can see how it did exactly what you see in the integrated oils, in the XLE, and Chevron, same thing. 126.06. Yeah, let me go back to Exxon. This one failed at the high. It's a 2-bar reversal, and 101.46. This one closed right on the penny. Right on the penny. So that was not a failure. It closed right at it. So somewhat of a give up, but not a complete. Yeah, so anyway, that's the integrated oils. So going back, so the XLE looks like it wants to come in finally. And it has been powering higher. XLF, that one actually gets over the bar, stays over, it has no volume. So same sort of scenario, wants to try to climb a little bit higher, but it's certainly not showing any desire in terms of new buyers coming in grabbing it. And you wouldn't think they would on a day like today when everything's in front of you. XLI, inside bar, doesn't really tell me anything. XLK, this one actually got higher today. And what's interesting about this is it's going back up to attack that bar one more time. And that's this wide price spread breakdown bar. So the last time up there, you know, this did 8 million. You went up there with 5 million. Now you're coming back with 4 million, 4.6. We'll see if it can do anything when it gets there, but it looks to me like that's probably not going to cut it again. Now what's interesting is a big portion of that is Apple. And if we go look at Apple, Apple finally failed today. So Apple goes over the high after an extended move and after one heck of a move, really. Over the high, back under it, less volume. This one's ready to come back in. And if you pull Apple back and you look at it and put it on a monthly, Apple's going in and testing. There's a bunch of bars here in the 594 area we talked about. So 594.59, the other one here is 603. You know, Apple's going into those and trying to hold over them. Closes at 592. You got this bar at 575. It looks like it will stay over the quote-unquote ABCD structure so far on a monthly, and that will, of course, be over on the monthly more than likely, unless you get a heck of a sell-off tomorrow in it. So Apple fails on the short term. But on the longer term, looks like it's going to try to go higher still. That's Apple. That's going to put some pressure on the XLK is why I went there. XLP, these guys came back in a little bit, but it's an inside bar, a little less volume, doesn't really say anything. XLU, this one actually failed finally. So this has had an extended move up, gets over the high, back under it. That looks like it's probably about done. And I don't know what that ABCD measures to. We can take a quick glance. 4111. Yeah, 4111. 4292, so that's 180. And you get back to, it's about 4384. You got to 4346. So it didn't quite get to where it was trying to. Maybe it gets a little bit more push, but it's just about out of juice. XLV. Now the IBB, the BBH, the biotechs in general are up today, and this one can't get going. It's coming into that bar again. It looks to me like it's going to fail one more time. And let me take a quick glance at the biotechs. I believe they stayed up. Yeah, they did today. And let's see, the last one is XLY, and this one can't get going inside day. So of the few reads that we're getting today that actually have some sort of conclusion to them, the majority says they're going to try to come back, and the few that are going to try to go a little bit farther look like they're about to fail. So the sectors last night saying, hey, we're going to try to bounce. Tonight they're saying, hey, we're about done. And then we go over to the ox markets. Right, and our trusty friend, the TLT. So remember last night the TLT was trying to pull back and do a test, right? It was trying to come back into this big bar. This was the bar here, 110.39. You got into it, no volume, 4.1 coming back into 9.7. Gets under that little ledge, back over it. This one wants to go right back up and try to test the highs again. So if the bonds want to go up, that says the market's probably going to have more difficulties. And so the bonds also, like sectors, suggesting that we're probably going to get a pullback. And that's going into the news, this kind of a suggestion. So that's not particularly good, right? All right. And if I go look real quickly before I go to your questions, and folks, if you want to send me a question, you can text it to me. The number is 303-912-9110. Just send a text there. Or you can send an email to support@tatoday.com. I'll pick them up there. Or, of course, you can type in, if you're logged in, into the chat window, and I can pick it up there as well. So if I go over to the world markets, China finally bounces. So if I come in and look at the large cap 8 shares that trade on the Hong Kong exchange, you come down, you do 1.7 into 2.8. That's not enough to knock it out. You test into it, you flip around, this thing's going to try to bounce. So the Hong Kong shares should try to get a bounce tonight. excuse me, the Shanghai Hong Kong listed shares, Hong Kong itself also flips around as part of that, is testing back to the upside. So China proper and China extended, if you will, look like they want to try to bounce. Taipei also trying to bounce. That's kind of chip country, but you're coming back up with a lot less than you came down. I don't think that one's going to go much farther. I was looking at the Australian All Ordinaries, my friends down in Australia. That one actually tested back, did a full retest regen on the prior swing point high, just broke out, has less volume. That's going to flip around and try to go back the other way. And then if I go look at Europe, with 11 cities now in Europe, been the government building's been taken over by pro-Russian demonstrators. So Putin might be saying he's not going to do anything, but he sure as heck ain't going to bring the unrest to a stop. And he's basically going to try to do an inside coup, is what it looks like to me. He's going to try to do versus attack. So here's the swing point high, 449. This is the CACs, the French CACs. 44.96.54. We close at 44.97. So we get over it, right? But we tested 44.99.32, closed underneath it. So even though you're going to get a trend change, you're going to fail on the test of the high here. That one's going to try to come back in. The German DAX actually has some decent volume today on the way up, so it looks to me like that one's going to try to test that high tomorrow. So it's going to be a mixed market, and then the FTSE finally breaks out, gets some short covering as a result of it, and spurts higher. The FTSE looks to me like it's going to come back into the bottoms of these bars, which is not that far away. That's that zone you see up there. So that one can carry more, and that's an ABCD structure that could actually take it back to the highs. So the FTSE, once more, trying to head back to the highs. So, world markets, what else? Mixed, right? We have some that are trying to come back in, Europe in general. FTSE looks like it's pretty strong. It's strong enough to bounce some more. Over in Asia, China still looks like it wants to go a little bit higher, but the other markets, not so much. They're about to play out. And my friends up in Canada, I haven't looked at you in a while. Let's take a quick look here. And you're back over the highs. 58.87, right at them. So testing the highs again. So Canada just continues to build out another range on top, right? And a lot of times you'll see this, right, where you build out these ranges. And you've got one here. Now you've got a break of that one. And if you do an extension of that same distance, right, you're going to get something up in there. So Canada trying to claw its way higher. Still looking okay. All right, let's go to your questions. Let's see what we got over here. So music on, no voice. Yeah, because I wasn't talking to you. I do play music when I come on, or actually when I'm trying to finish up and prepare right quick. So here's the next question. Federico, hi LA, may you take a look ASTC weekly and monthly. Okay, so let's pop in here and see what this guy looks like. So let me take a few of these and stick them in. So ASTC, I see another one is V, and Exxon Mobil we just talked about. I'll come back to that. So let me pop these symbols in so I can see the charts, and let's see what they look like. So ASTC. All right, so this is, looks like it's in the industrial sector. And on a daily, it's breaking multiple swing points. That's not a good way to start. Let's see what the weekly looks like. And on the weekly, I don't know when these guys report. I can quickly try to find out for you. But, anything this time of the year, you have to be looking at the reports. So I think we looked at this one before, and I was saying that you want to wait until it came back to test these big bars, if I remember right. That low is 181. So now that you have a break on, on the daily, and its multiple swing points, that should carry 2 to 3 bars, probably going to carry you back into this price point, which is 181. Let's see what the weekly looks like. So these guys are commercial aerospace, it looks like. And let me pop up and see when the earnings are due on these guys. And they're coming back in on the monthly as well. On the monthly, they can trade down to 35 and 174, so that's the target there. And I'm trying to, so they've already reported financials, it looks like, on Feb 20th. Okay, so if they've reported on Feb 20th, let's see how they behaved. And oh no, they report on Feb 20th. That was the last time, right? So they're going to be reporting here pretty soon. Let me pop into TA Today. Let's go over here real quick and see what it is. So Trading Cube is ASTC. And let's see what we got here. So they have no earnings, right? 23 million, it's nothing. Revenue growth is negative. There's not much in the way of institutions, not short interest isn't much. And I don't have a date on it, but if it was February, that would make it March, April, May, probably about middle of the next month, so another 2 to 3 weeks. So, you know, I would, you know, when I look at all of that, I would definitely make it trade back into at least this, what was it, 35? What is that low? 81. I'd at least make it trade back in there and see how it behaves. That would be the spot to look at it. This also on a weekly now is an ABCD structure. 405, 215. You can't do it this way. This is where you have to do the weighting, right? The weighted average on a week, you know, on the index, because on this particular one, you're not going to be able to get a true number given this setup, right? Because it's you can't do it arithmetically. It has to be a weighted average. So hang on a second, I'll get that number for you as I pull up my spreadsheet here. And let's go to the next one while I'm waiting. So, oh, here it is. Let me pop it in right quick. So that's 405. That low is 215 and 292, and that gets you to 155. So 155, and I believe on that monthly that would take you into that big bar. Yeah, 135, 174. So if I'm looking at this, I want to see it test on the weekly, and I want to see it come back into here probably. That would be where I'd be looking at it. 155 is the number on the ABCD structure. And you can see it makes a big difference, right? Because if you to do the weighting, because if you don't, right, if it's not percentage based, you're not going to get a real number, right? Because there's no way you can take, the number here would take you down to 50 cents or something, and that's really not the case. 405, 215, so it's roughly $2. It takes you down to $1 instead of $1.55. And 50, that's 30% difference, right? That's why it's important to do it. Let's see, what else? Visa. Oh no, the first question was, do you think earnings leak out before a company like Exxon reports, and that gets reflected in the price before the earnings? They don't leak out. It's people that are have inside information. As much as I hate to say it, that's the case. Right? People know things. They always do. And so, yeah, it definitely happens. And so, in this case, Exxon, if you go back and look at Exxon's already ran up into earnings. It's already done. So the earnings are going to be okay. It's just that it's already made its move, and it's going to come back. right? It's already made its move. It's going in. It's tested this high. It's probably not. Well, it's going to have earnings, so it probably have as much volume. So, you know, maybe it tests up there again. What do we got? 42.5, and we're doing 21 run rate already. So, you know, it's going to have the volume. So it's going to test with volume. So that says it can certainly be back up there again. And let me look at it on the monthly, what that number is. So that monthly volume is 281, and you're doing 200. So on the monthly, it's going to fail. So on the monthly, you're going to fail. On the weekly, you're going to potentially fail on price, but you'll have the volume. On the daily, right, it already has made its run. It probably is going to pull back. So yeah, I believe that's exactly what happens. Last question real quick here, V. And let me see if anybody else is... Yeah, I've got somebody else asking me. W day, I'll have to take that one right quick. Let me see if there's any text here as well. And we're good on text. So let's see about V here. So V reports earnings, gets hammered, right? Volume expands, comes into the bottom of this, doesn't have quite as much volume. So V is going to bounce around, build out down here, and eventually probably go lower. So you got a range trade up underneath this area, right? And inside that, you got two halves. You got one here, and you got another one up there. It's right here trying to get back over it. If the market pushes higher, then V is going to try to trade back up into this top, and that's where it probably fails. If the market can't, then V is going to come right back down and test these lows again. So it's in no man's land. I wouldn't be trading it here. Last one is W day. So W day is... This is a tech type holding, you know, high volatility workday. Forget exactly what these guys do. I could look it up, but anyway, I'll just go forward. So the question here is, what's a good place to get in? You got a high volume low on the daily, so let's go look at the weekly. The weekly's probably lows as well, and it's testing. Yeah, it's right here. So that high was 61.99. You traded into 61.44. A little bit lower. 61.99. Right at 62 is the number. All right, that's where you want to look at this guy. So as it comes back in, and it is going to come back in and test one more time, it looks like, because it left a high volume low here. Right, it's going to bounce up a bit, then come back around 62 is where I'd be looking. All right, folks, I'm out of time. Tomorrow looks to me like you know, going into all the news that's fixing to start hitting, this market's setting up one more time to try to come back the other way. Have yourself a great night. Take care of yourself. I'll see you next time. Until then, I'm LA. This is and was your daily TA wrap. Have yourself a great night. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Good night, folks.